For months, Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro, just like U.S. President Donald Trump, has downplayed the severity of the pandemic. Just last Friday, Bolsonaro vetoed legislation requiring people to wear face masks in shops and churches. Today, Brazil's president announced that he has tested positive for the coronavirus, and he says he is taking a drug that doctors say does not work against COVID-19. U.S. President Trump, however, says it does. Tonight, a lesson in the power of a virus and a lesson in the limits of political power. Lessons learned the hard way. I'm Brent Goff in Berlin. This is The Day.
It started on Sunday with an unwell feeling that worsened during the day on Monday. Together with my doctor, I then thought that these symptoms could be a possible COVID-19 infection. Considering the symptoms I had, the medical team decided to use hydroxychloroquine. If I hadn't taken the test, I wouldn't know I had it, and it turned out to be positive.
Also coming up tonight, the new security law in Hong Kong. What does it mean for free speech online? And what about social media companies? Can they adapt, or will they have to pick up and leave?
We are quite unsure how it will impact even the safety of individual staff, or what is the threats for us to, if we continue to receive foreign funding, we have to somehow prepare the worst scenario. Then we may also consider to move to other countries.
To our viewers on PBS in the United States and all around the world, welcome. We begin the day with the coronavirus and presidential powers. Today, U.S. President Donald Trump notified members of Congress that he is withdrawing the country from the World Health Organization. With the number of new coronavirus infections soaring in the U.S. and with hospitals filling up, taking the U.S. out of the WHO may appear self-defeating. But it is in line with Trump's attempts to deflect efforts to blame him for America's coronavirus crisis. While Trump continues to ignore the reality of the pandemic, another president no longer has that option. Today, Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro announced that he has tested positive for the coronavirus. The 65-year-old has symptoms, but he told reporters today that he is feeling better thanks to the anti-malaria drug pushed by President Trump. Bolsonaro is known as the Trump of South America. Both leaders have a lot in common. They've downplayed the pandemic and they've refused to stand behind efforts to stop the virus from spreading. The virus, however, does not recognize executive power or privilege of any kind. So far, Trump has avoided infection. Today, he and the world saw firsthand that the title Mr. President means nothing to the coronavirus.
From the very beginning of the outbreak, Jair Bolsonaro repeatedly played down the risks of the coronavirus and initially described it as a little flu. He also flouted social distancing recommendations and other measures, including wearing face masks in public. Bolsonaro had been tested 3 times previously. All came back negative. However, on Tuesday, the Brazilian right-wing leader confirmed to local media he had tested positive for COVID-19. It started on Sunday with a certain feeling of being unwell that got worse on Monday, with nausea, tiredness, a bit of muscle pain, and a fever that reached 38 degrees in the late afternoon. I then thought that with these symptoms, and with the presidential doctor believing it to be a possible COVID-19 infection, I had a CT scan at a military hospital here in Brasilia. My lungs were clear. Brazil is the second worst hit country in the world after the US, with more than 65,000 deaths and at least 1.6 million coronavirus cases. Despite this, bars, restaurants and other businesses are slowly reopening, but people still have doubts. As long as we follow the safety measures with space between the tables, I think it's worth reopening. We are the only ones in here, but if, for instance, there's someone on another table, I think I would probably feel uncomfortable. The WHO has warned the pandemic is far from over, as it's taking its toll around the world.
There have now been 11.4 million cases of COVID-19 and more than 535,000 lives have been lost. The outbreak is accelerating, and we have clearly not reached the peak of the pandemic.
The World Health Organization also wished Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro a speedy recovery in his own battle against the coronavirus.
Well, for more on this, let's go now to Rio de Janeiro and talk to journalist Matthias Ebert. He has been following this story for us. Good evening to you, Matthias. Does this have any impact on Bolsonaro's ability to execute the office of president?
Bolsonaro himself says no. He wants to go on to govern the country from his home by video conference. So at the moment, it's not sure if he will do so really, or if Vice President Mourão will replace him. But in the end, it depends on the severity of the symptoms of Bolsonaro. So the next days will be turbulent here in Brazil.
Matthias, we know that President Bolsonaro says that he is taking the anti-malaria drug that has been pushed by U.S. President Donald Trump. Now, doctors say that that medication does not work against COVID-19. So do we know why is Bolsonaro taking it?
Yeah, I think he still believes in this medicine. Simply as that, he thinks it can help. He's convinced by it instead of the critics by experts. A recent study in Manaus, in the Amazon capital of Brazil, showed that chloroquine can cause heart attacks, can cause problems which haven't been there before. So chloroquine is not recommended by experts for all type of patients. So Bolsonaro is taking it in the end maybe because his role model, Donald Trump, also promotes this type of medicine.
We know that there is a growing list of political leaders who have become infected with the coronavirus. Some have changed their policies about the virus, some have not. How do you think this will impact the policies of President Bolsonaro?
I think personally that it won't have a huge impact on his policies in future because Bolsonaro is really keen to get the economy back on track. He needs a strong economy in order to be re-elected in 2 years. And this is his main aim he wants to achieve. And on the other hand, he's in the middle of a political crisis. Many ministers stepped back in the last weeks and months. So he was a radical in the corona crisis. And I think he will go on like this because he is under pressure politically, and that means he might not change too much.
Correspondent Matthias Ebert reporting tonight from Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. Matthias, thank you.